Welcome to another episode of Tech Unhinged, where technology meets human. Today, I am joined by someone who doesn't just talk about the future of AI, he's helping build it inside one of the most influential companies in the world. What sets Saad apart isn't just his technical background, it's the depth of experience he brings across industries, streams, and technologies. From mentoring students to leading enterprise grade AI projects, he's built a reputation for turning complex ideas into practical, high impact solutions. Welcome to the show, Saad.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate being here.
Well, Saad, I want to rewind here for a second. You started out as an executive engineer in telecom in Islamabad. Today, you are building intelligent agents at Microsoft. What shifted in your mindset or worldview that led you from traditional systems to intelligent systems?
Thanks for this question. I'll go a little bit about the origins. I'm originally from Pakistan, born and raised, loved being in that city. I loved Islamabad in a way that in 90s, it was beautiful, not so much traffic, which has changed a lot. Yeah, it's been amazing. Regarding your question about from the journey from UFON to Microsoft, how I see is we're like the world is getting abstracted, in some ways, right? How I view even engineering disciplines is like you start with mechanical engineering, you go on top having electrical engineering, electronics, computer science, and now we're abstracting that to AI, right? So it's been a journey. It's been a journey from last couple of decades that every engineer is working on different layers of their infrastructure. That goes from even starting from civil and mechanical engineering all the way to what's coming now is AI, right? So working at UFON versus what I'm doing right now, it's not pretty much different. At the end of the day, you want to help business succeed in some ways, right? Interesting story, while I was doing that, I was part of core network planning at UFON at a very, it was just getting out of college and I got this amazing position where I was part of the rollout of 3G and 4G. So if you remember back in 2013, 2014, that was the time when 3G and 4G was rolling out, And I was that person, and I'm not like this is true and everybody could say that. I was that person who was there when it was getting switched on in Islamabad, Karachi, Lahore. I covered 5 major cities when 3G and 4G went live at UFON, like in the network. And I was reporting to my CTO. And that was the time, I was part of the history for the first time where we were working on that. But from that perspective, I feel like technology has evolved a little bit, right? That was a momental shift in going from circuit switching, which has been primarily how mobile networks used to work, to a little bit of packet switching, right? And now we talk about AI and how the whole, it's going to get people out of job and everything. At that time, I was seeing in person that people who had so much experience in circuit switching wanted to adopt packet switching, which is 3G, 4G, it's like the internet was coming. It made me realize at that time that that's an evolution, in some ways that how technology evolves, markets get saturated, and then you have to move to the next layer. So the same way now working in AI and building AI agents, I feel the same way. I'm working on a different abstraction layer, which is the top AI layer. Things are same. We're going from simple systems, databases, data warehousing, all of that stuff, which I've been working with in traditional, we call it narrow AI, the use cases of machine learning, to more intelligent systems, which is, transformer models with whatever's going on in AI. On top of that, we're building AI agents. So it's part of an evolution of technology, different abstraction layer, but that's how technology works.
Well, moving to our next question, Saad. You were an MBA and, UT Austin and hold a master's in computer science. How did those two worlds, business and engineering, intersect for you when working on AI strategy at Microsoft?
I mean, that's a great question. A lot of engineers think that they're building cool stuff. And I agree, we're building cool stuff. But at the end of the day, business drives technology, not the other way around, right? If there is a business use case that is there, people want it, then we'll build technology around it. We have not done in a way that, hey, I'm going to build something cool, but there's nobody to sell. So you always have to think about how business impacts technology. If there's going to be buyers, we're going to build technology around it, right? So that's one thing. Second thing is, on my personal journey, I always wanted to understand the business world. Growing up, I wanted to have a world view of how everything's working, how the world is working, from geopolitical things to economics, how different trade things, all that stuff happens. So I went through the journey through technology, So as I said, that abstraction layer in my last is like, I've done electrical engineering, right, in my bachelor's. So that provided me an understanding of how the systems work beneath. And then I have a master's in computer science, which talks about more application layer, right? Building on the hardware. And that drive me a little bit of like understanding the stack, and then complementing that with an MBA provides me a 360 view of business world, right? At the end of the day, you are trying to work. I mean, we call it in capitalism, you work for shareholders, right? The shareholders for a company, you want to make them rich. That's the crux of capitalism. But understanding the holistic 360 view of business, how what I'm doing is going to impact our customers, is going to impact our business outcomes. And that is a key thing. So I used to like read business related books before, but I think MBA provided me a holistic 360 view of from marketing to finance to valuation, how companies are being valued, how stock market work, how a business becomes profitable from startup world to very mature enterprises like Microsoft. So it provided me with the skill set and the essential toolbox to understand business, understand what engineers build impacts the business. So yeah, for me, I think, the journey has been, and it helps me a lot when I work at Microsoft, talk to my clients and partners, understanding their business need rather than, hey, I have a cool thing to build and give it to you. And that's now how the world works. So when you talk to a customer, when you talk to a partner, you need to understand where they're coming from, what problem they're trying to solve, and then you come in, that's how we solve it, and how much business impact is going to happen.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. But Saad, do you think that in your profession, this gives you an edge over other people who are, just engineers, or maybe they haven't been exposed to the business side of the world, or does it not make a difference?
It does a huge difference. I mean, I tell everyone, it's like, even with engineers, with Microsoft or outside my friends, it's like, hey, you always need to start understanding the problem or the business that you're trying to solve or impact, right? Without that, you're just like is shooting in the dark. You don't know what you're trying to solve, right? So it's imperative to understand. And, since you brought it up, it's like we talk about how AI is going to take the low-level engineering jobs, For example, me, who has an MBA, let's say, or somebody who's a business leader, with AI, building has become so easy. You need to be an architect, you need to be a business solver, you need to be a product manager who understand and can build technology and let AI agents build it. So in that way, that one person can do 20 plus people's job, how AI agent's going to build what he wants to build. So for the viewers, for your viewers, if somebody's like student or coming out of college, it's imperative to understand the business world. Without that, building has become so easy. Everybody can, AI is way better than coding and building than a normal person.
So, you're also working on one of the major agent-based system for one of the world's largest energy companies. Without disclosing what you can, what's something that surprised you while building agents at that scale?
This is a great question. There's a lot of noise around what AI agents are, what AI is, and nobody like pinpoints. So I'll take a step back and I'll just explain a little bit like for me what agents are, and I'll give an analogy of like driving. Self-driving is coming. I live in Austin, where Waymo and Tesla's headquarters like 5 miles away. Human driving will be obsolete in some ways. And that's why I want to give this analogy. It's like when you think of AI agent, think of human driving, where human is a base model having a brain that can do certain things. That is our AI model. Then you have two other things. One is skill and one is tool. So you have this model, you have this skill, which is driving itself, how to drive, right? And then tool is a car. So for me, an AI agent is three things. One is the base AI model. You call it a human brain, call it a driver. You have a skill, how to drive. In terms of building AI agents, it's the prompt that guides the agent. And the tool that gets invoked in the tool is a car. So in the basic building block, this is what an AI agent is. And when you build this, combine this, it's autonomously can do stuff. Like I can go and drive my car. I can do it autonomously without somebody's supervision, without human supervision. So on the base level, that is that. Building AI agents are the easiest thing to do in today's world. But taking them to production, that's the hardest part. I'm going to repeat that because last week I heard from, LangChain's CEO, Harrison Chase, and he had a big conference and he had that on the screen. It's like building an AI agent is pretty easy, but taking that AI agent to production for the enterprise use case, that's the hardest part. That is where everybody's going to focus on. And I'll explain you why. Building is easy in a way that, it's like more of an engineer mindset. It's like, hey, I'm going to build this cool thing. But do you have put governance in there? Do you have put responsible AI in that? Do you have put security and access control? What business problem it's trying to solve? Is it making sure that there are guardrails and controls? What if it's going to harm somebody, right? How much ROI we're going to get from this AI agent, how much productivity we're going to get. So when you think about building an AI agent in enterprises, you have to think about all these things holistically, how the system is going to interact and with humans as well. Right? So working at Microsoft, building enterprise AI agents, one of the key things that we look at, start from business, what problem we're trying to solve, how AI agents going to solve it, but then seeing the holistic architecture, building it, governance, all that stuff that I've mentioned. Right? This is a year of AI agents. We called it 2025 is the year of AI agents. We have seen enterprises, big enterprises are trying to solve that. Now to your question about energy sector, or finance sector or any other sector, it's like things like white collar job or like computer jobs, yeah, they're gonna get revamped. But energy where people have to work on transformers, where they have to like fix the machines, that's like very mechanical. How AI agents gonna work on that? Believe it or not, we're gonna do that adoption there. Like imagine a maintenance engineer where he has this AI agent taking a picture, problematic transformer, and asking an AI agent, hey, what should I do to fix it? Right? So it's not only gonna get the internal documentation and everything, it's gonna guide him like, hey, you need to do this, right? And do it right in some ways. That is the first step. The second step is where bots gonna get introduced, where they're gonna do all that heavy lifting. So I'll give you one example, self-driving cars are coming. We know, it's like in 1 or 2 years, human driving is gonna go away. It's like they're everywhere. Back in 2014 and 15, there was Cruise is one of the GM's subsidiary, which it went bankrupt. There are a lot of competing self-driving companies are working, but back in 2014 or 15, there was an incident that happened in San Francisco where Cruise car actually dragged one passenger almost 10 miles, right? I mean, the state revoked their license to operate. One small incident and you get revoked.
Yeah.
Now imagine you're like running $1 billion business. One small mistake can ruin everything. So that's the world we're going to live in, where responsible AI, these guardrails and controls are really important.
AI agents can't run without clean governed data. And you must have seen this in your expertise as well. You've led architecture at PepsiCo and Pool Corp as well. What's a reality check most enterprises need when it comes to AI readiness in their data?
I think I would say that your AI strategy is your data strategy. Garbage in, garbage out. A lot of people say that. It's like if your data is not clean and kosher, you'll have garbage out, right? Which is not going to be personalized, contextualized, and everything, right? That's why, even Microsoft, we had this Microsoft Fabric, that talks about the whole data strategy, putting into data lake, making it nice and clean, and then put AI on top of it. And that's part of a user, customer getting mature in terms of their AI journey. So absolutely, data is the most important thing. Data is going to be the king always. You guys all know that we ran out of data to train AI models, right? There are big companies that are training the models on synthetic data, which is all made up data, because we ran out of it. There's no other data that they can train the models on. We've already done that, right? So data is always going to be the king. Why? Because it's highly contextualized. You ask ChatGPT right now, hey, provide me life advices or whatever. ChatGPT just puts some random stuff, right? But you as Rabia, you want to understand how it correlates to your life. And that's the data in your brain that provides that contextualization and personalization. So, hands down, if I could convey one message through this, it's like the next couple of years where things are going to be are two things: personalization and contextualization. That's going to drive everything because we have generalization, general models, everything. You want things to be contextualized, the thing that you want to ask about, and personalized to how it correlates to you. So if you ask about life advices, because I brought this up because, OpenAI just sent a huge report. It's like a lot of people are using ChatGPT as their therapist and life
Oh,
coach,
yes, they are.
right? It's not contextualized and personalized. It's going to tell you things about a CEO should know, but you're just a college grad. You're just trying to survive. And it's not personalized and contextualized in some ways. So to the viewers, stop using it as a therapist and a life coach yet. And that's what the strategy of OpenAI is. It's like Sam Altman said that. I mean, he didn't say that. He implied that they want to understand your life. That is the key. From Google to Microsoft is not consumer focused that much. From Google to Apple to OpenAI, all these big companies, Meta, big, they know everything about you. All their goal is to understand you. They already know that, but putting that into a model so that they understand everything about you is going to be the key to win, because you'll have these two things: personalization and contextualization.
Yeah, yeah. The other day I was reading how, Meta agents are going to take over the ad agencies closely by 2026. So, we are seeing a lot of changes in this landscape. So you've sort of touched up upon this, but if we specifically, talk about this, that it's generally seen that businesses care more about contextuality and accuracy than creativity. So, how do you design AI agents that reduce hallucinations, especially in high risk domains like finance or energy or other sectors?
And that's a great question in a way that for businesses, I mean, it depends on the business. If you're working in film industry, they need more creativity. But if the business is working in, it's like finance domain, they want to make money and they want to be very quant heavy in some ways. So AI agents are a great example. Last year when nobody knew what AI agents, AI was coming, hallucination was a big problem. AI agents are in some ways the answer to mitigate hallucinations, but there are different techniques even in the agentic world. I would bring up three things. First is human in loop. You have to have human in the loop, because for edge cases, for ambiguity and vagueness, you need to add human in loop. Second is you add a reflection agent, right? It's one agent making a decision, another agent is a critique or a reflection agents understand the decisions or the output you have made and made sure that it is cool. So you add reflection agents and feedback. So it's like you can add a feedback agent that reviews, critique the answers and verify one more time, right? So there are different strategies in the world of hallucination. I would not say that it's never going to be the case, but even with AI models, you can change the setting of a temperature. Temperature is a gauge how the model would go more creative versus more accurate. You can gauge that all the way down to more accurate, wherever the use case is, but add these reflection, feedback, human in loop agents to make sure the outputs are good.
So since you're operating from inside Microsoft's, cloud and AI group, what is one underrated strategic move Microsoft is making in the agent space that you think most outsiders miss out on?
I'm very bullish on Microsoft, even before joining Microsoft. I bought a lot of shares 10 years back, because of their strategic position and leadership. I'm going to give huge credit to the CEO, Satya Nadella, is one of the best CEOs in the modern world that we have seen. Operated from empathy to understanding really well where he needs to take the company from where it was after Steve Ballmer. We had like three CEOs, from Bill Gates to Steve Ballmer to Satya. And I'll talk a little bit about his personality, his perception. I've read his book, Hit Refresh, if you want to check it out. Great. Coming from India, very simple background in that way. His parents were in civil service, philosophy, and all that stuff. That created a little bit of his worldview of like where things are. And empathy was a core part of it. And I think that leaders ideas and culture impacts everything. I always say that, there are two things that impact the company. It's the mindset and it's the culture. They're two things. Anywhere. You can get the smartest guys in the room, but if there's no culture, there's no mindset, nothing. He's one of the godfathers of capitalism. He said, culture eats strategy for the breakfast.
I've heard that one. Yeah.
Right? It's like if you don't have a good culture and a mindset in a company, your strategy is nothing. So it's very imperative to understand what Microsoft core principles are based on growth mindset, based on think win-win and go up the abstraction ladder. I'll give you two examples what they did. They embraced one of the huge upset in the Microsoft history when Microsoft, which is a closed source company, embraced Linux. Open source. They've been competing for a while, right? Microsoft whole strategy was compete, and go up the ladder and, it's like make sure your enemies are not winning. He changed everything. He collaborated with even Apple to build apps that are focused on iPhone, doing collaboration with NVIDIA, OpenAI. It's like collaborating with everyone. Everyone go to the platform level, and what's the Microsoft mission? It's empower every individual and company on the planet. And when you say empower, that's a huge message. So what Microsoft did is went down the abstraction layer and telling we're going to empower everyone from customers to partners to everyone, right? We're going to collaborate with you. We're going to make you successful because when you'll be successful, we'll be successful. Think about with the whole AI boom, which is the company that got the most out of it. It's NVIDIA. They're making, they work at the low level. They work by making these AI chips, which everybody's gonna use, and they've got that business. So Microsoft in that way, in the enterprise scale, is the same level. We're building platforms for developers. We're building platform for customers from low code to pro code. Anything you can come and build your business and take the most out of it. Because it's the same thing, like I also, life is not a zero-sum game. A lot of people think that life is a zero-sum game. Life is never a zero-sum game. Life is a positive-sum game. You give, you get. It's not a pie. You don't take a piece of pie, it's gonna go less. It's gonna go bigger. So once you think about from that mindset, success gets you in some way. So in that way, if talking about Microsoft strategy, even AI strategy, what we are building is we're building for the developers, for the customers, for the partners to make them successful from Copilot Studio to Azure AI Foundry in AI space. These three things go from low code to a little bit pro code to all the way custom pro code. And you can mix and match. And that's the architecture that we were trying to build as well.
It must be really exciting to be working with all of this. A lot of people throw around the jargon we've been listening, digital twin for AI agents. But realistically speaking, how far are we from an AI that can actually operate on our behalf while we are asleep?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I think we're pretty close in that way. I'll give you one example. Reid Hoffman he's a co-founder of LinkedIn. Reid Hoffman last year created his own digital twin, and you can check it out. He talks to him refining ideas and everything. It's like, he has put a lot of videos, so it's called Reid Hoffman AI, with video and everything. So he trained his model, gave everything that he knew, the books that he has read, the worldview that he has, his pictures and everything, and created this model or fine-tuned that model for his personality. And he talks to him like, hey, check it out. And that was last year, right? In my opinion, we all will have one AI clone with us all the time. We'll have millions. We have multiple clones. One would be for work, one would be for the party clone, the work clone. So we'll have different personalities of these clones that will work for us, right? And you can pick anybody and you're like, hey, talk to this guy, and that's part of you. That's the world we are going to live in. It's going to be the same for enterprises as well. And like Satya mentioned that in the future, we will have humans and the swarms of AI working together with different personalities and everything. So we're pretty close. I feel like in a year or two, if you'd ask me, I've created one GPT that I put a lot of personality of me around how my writing styles are, from LinkedIn to Twitter to a little bit of Instagram and everything. And sometimes I ideate. It's like, hey, how would I write to make sure that, it's like I'm fast on like my writing style, my thinking style, everything, and somebody helping me. So we're going to give all this knowledge to AI, of course, to build all that stuff, our personalization. And that's the great way of like how, Sam Altman said that we want to understand your life, right? We are willingly giving that information the same way Instagram is taking our information of like, hey, we want to put cool pictures on Instagram and they're learning. Google, it's like, hey, we have to use Google in searches, but Google understands you way more than you do probably in some ways, right?
Oh, yeah.
So with AI, even we're going to give all this information to these companies so that we can become productive. There's no way out. But in that way, we'll create these digital twin, you want to call it, AI clones, you want to call it, your virtual things. And guess what? They're going to live forever.
That adds the cherry on top.
I was having a discussion with my dad, who was a teacher, and he does not know what I do in some ways. And I'm like, Dad, you're going to be fine. We'll create a digital clone of you. You're going to live forever in the cloud. He was like, what? I don't understand what you're saying. But for your viewers, I would appreciate if you guys watch Black Mirror on Netflix and movie Her, where this guy fell in love with the OS. And that was back in 2014. 2015, these things came out. Generative AI was not even a thing, at that time. That's reality now. People say, there have been reports that people are falling in love with ChatGPT.
Oh, yes, they give more credit to ChatGPT in comparison to a human sitting next to them.
Human relationships are not working lately.
Also, actually, my next question, where we can delve more into the side of the things. So, we've seen Hollywood has long imaginated AI agents that comfort, evolve, and then love. But in real life, especially in an enterprise, agents are measured in KPIs and not feelings. Do you think we'll ever see a convergence between emotional intelligence and business intelligence? Or are we building an entirely different kind of intelligence?
A lot of industry experts, the head of Meta AI, Lon Jikon, you follow him, and a lot of other people, including, like Sam Altman, who's building OpenAI, but he's not a researcher. But a lot of researchers say that LLMs, large language models, might not be the way to AGI in some ways that would have that emotional understanding. They can mimic pretty well. So you see a lot of fine-tuned models. There's a model by Anthropic, I think, Anthropic or Google's DeepMind, Mustafa Salman, who's now the head of AI at Microsoft. His previous startup was this bot Pi, which was emotional intelligent AI. You can check it out. I've talked to him. It's like pretty emotionally intelligent to understand feelings, to understand the tone. And even with ChatGPT now, you can talk it, understand human emotion in some ways, like the pauses. If you are sad, it's going to stay different. If I'm excited, I'm going to say something else, right? So we're going to train these AIs to be as emotionally intelligent as possible. In what use case we're using, that's going to be the key, right? Not every model is going to fit, right? It's the same way people have different preferences. You like certain foods, you don't like certain foods, you like certain cars. The same way they're models built for different things, right? We have O1 series, O3 models, which are, by OpenAI, they're like more reasoning models, you can say. And we have 4.1, 4.2, they're generic models. So there'll be a lot of different models. It depends on your use case. From businesses, we'll have more accuracy. From Hollywood perspective, from our personal lives, we'll have a different fine-tuned model that would understand human emotion. Arthur C. Clarke, is a fiction writer back early 90s, so he said any advanced technology would seem like a magic. And it is now, you talk about fonts, it seemed like a magic to my parent generation, right?
You have spoken at UT Austin, Texas Tech, and even NUST in Berea back home. What are students asking you about AI agents that seasoned professionals are not? And what does that tell you about the generational shift in technology?
A lot of people want to be nice and they don't want to put that fear into the world that, hey, it's going to take your jobs and anything. But would have to be very realistic. And I'm going to play my part in being realistic and telling the next generation that things are not looking that great for you. If you're college grad. And that's not me, it's all the industry experts. Anthropic CEO just recently said, it's like probably at the end of this year or next year, we will have models and agents that's going to perform way better than entry level jobs if you're coming out of computer science background. So it's the shift, right? I'll take a step back. It's like we talked about a lot about AI agents, who are we humans and what are we doing in this world and, all that stuff. 200,000 years of human evolution that we have gone through to build these bodies and brain, right? This is what humans have been. We've been through multiple pivotal evolutionary moments, like the invention of fire that helped us make our brains bigger. We had the invention of language, right? That changed everything in a way. We had an invention of writing that we can understand the history, right? The hunting, domestication of wheat. One of the most pivotal moment in our history is like going from hunter-gatherers to domestication of wheat, which is now you have an abundance of food at your home and you can procreate. Population going great. So if you see from that grander lens, we call about 15 billion, 13.7 billion years old, whatever, but human evolution, 200,000 years we've been here on this earth, multiple cycles of evolution. This right now is one of the pivotal moment in our human evolution. We're going from more human-like intelligence to another form of intelligence. And eventually we're going to merge with that intelligence. We will have some remnants of humans that's going to remain with us. And we have already been merged, it's like from phones that have become an extension, we have neural links that's going to get planted, and then we'll have our bodies augmented with bots, and eventually we'll upload ourselves to the cloud and live forever, right? Now there's talk about consciousness, non-consciousness, what makes us human and everything. In my point of view, human body is not perfect. There's a lot of flaws, you fall, I had an ACL surgery, I'm not the same afterwards. There's a lot of limitations of human. Why not to augment having another eye on the back? Why not to have another forearm? Why not to have another leg that's going to help you? Why not to have a wheel with you that you can travel anywhere? So all these augmentations going to happen. So that's why I took a step back and, provided like in a grand scheme of things, we are going through another pivotal evolutionary moment. It's one of the kind that we have an emergence of another intelligence that we're going to merge with eventually, right? So we should see it from that way. It's part of evolution, it's like I'm a little bit existential in that way. 60, 70, 80 years of human life, we're just like fireflies. We are fireflies. And that's it. Now is the time where next part of evolution. With that particular context, if you'd see and zoom out the grand reality of things, your relationships, the things you're doing, you're concerned about everyday things, we're going through a big shift in human evolution. It's working. And then you talk about displacement of jobs and everything in a small scale. How many people before 3 or 4 decades, how many people were working on their computers, right? It's just like 3 decades, 4 decades, right? Most of the jobs were in factories, manufacturing and things like that. The whole economy went to knowledge work back in 90s when the computers came, early 2000. It's just 2 or 3 decades. That's it. It's nothing compared to 200,000 years. It's like it's nothing. Yeah. We're going to another level. We just had a good run on the knowledge work. Now AI is going to kill the knowledge work and the white workers. The white collar jobs killed the manufacturing jobs because we created streamlined manufacturing in some ways. Now AI is here to kill white collar jobs, and we're going up the abstraction ladder.
Yeah, but then, where does it take it from killing, the white collar jobs to taking the jobs itself, right? I mean, when we talk about, entry level jobs being on the hit in the upcoming timeline. And I think it's still facing a backlash for most of the grads right now. There was a time, where we were entry level or intern, and then we are where we are today because of those experiences. But then is that generation now, just reliant upon their skill, how they present themselves, how they are more handy with the AI, but they're not going to have this edge of an experience. So, what are your thoughts on that?
I agree, I'll give you my example. Back in 70s, 80s, civil engineering, if you talk about engineering, civil engineering was like hailed upon, it's like, hey, he did civil engineering. After that, mechanical engineering came, and then afterwards, electrical engineering came. When I was going to college at that time in Pakistan, during that time, everybody was talking about phones, telecom. It's like, hey, you need to go to telecom engineering. When I was there, it was the
Hmm.
top engineering selection in the whole Pakistan, in NUST being on the top. And if you make it to the telecom engineering, you are the top. So, if you remember, people know that you had to select certain things where your priorities and everything. Everybody would choose telecom engineering. The top minds at that time was that. Within
Hmm.
4 years of my degree, that telecom industry went there to a saturation. When I came out, it was already getting saturated, right? So it's like a small cycle of how things change. But again, we have to realize business drives technology, not the other way around. So if you're making money there, it's going to happen. Nobody's going to give, we're going to live in the realistic world. A lot of young kids, they come out of college, and I'm sorry to say, but, it's like entitlement is a thing. It's like, hey, when I come out, I should have a job. Why don't you create a job? Right?
Yeah.
Think from that mindset. It's like nobody's going to give you anything on the platter in life. Life is hard. Humans have been on this survival mode for a while. Life is hard. You got to adopt. You got to get better. You got to know if somebody would have a job for you, then we'll have, Unfortunately, in Pakistan, when I was there, maybe now I'm a little bit disconnected from the politics. Everybody blames their government, right?
Yeah.
It's like government should have new jobs. Like how? Why don't you create a company that would help create jobs for other people as well, right? So would have to shift a little bit of mindset, It's like rather than looking for jobs, create a product. This is hands down, Now we talked about a little bit of pessimism about how things are moving. Let's talk about optimism. This is hands down the best time in human history to build products. Why? Building has become so easy with AI. You have your co-pilots, build it, wipe code, whatever, go build things what customer wants, anything. So to all the young entrepreneurs and people, go start building. Even content creation, is itself an act of building something, your lifestyle or coaching or anything, but you're doing something which people want to see.
Yep.
How capitalism works is like, it's buyers and sellers, right? It's like demand and supply. These two things, there are only two things, demand and supply. The more demand, the supply is going to. So you have to balance that. What people need, you have to build.
Coming to another question, which is very relevant to this. So, Saad, given that, we've talked at length about AI and everything, is software engineering dead? I mean, how do you answer this question or how would you answer this question to a 22-year-old CS grad who's terrified that their skills are going to become obsolete and, software engineering is just a piece of cake?
Well, I would say that if you are like a really top level software developer, you're still there, but soon we are going towards that. It's not looking that great in that way. We need to reskill a little bit and go to the core values, right? In my opinion, mid to low level software skills, Python and everything, if you are like coder, AI is going to do a better job. But if you think about being an architect of the application, building products end to end, being a person who is solving the business holistically, that's something that's going to be way better, right?
Yeah.
So that means that if you are someone who can leverage AI agents to build products holistically, building the whole architecture together, how all the pieces come together, that's the key. How to make it a product that is what we need in this market right now. Otherwise, AI is going to do a better job in coding as well. This is the first time ever in human history where computers have understood our language, which is English or Urdu or whatever. Now we can communicate with that. Previously, what software engineering is more about development and talking in computer language, right? Now we understood that language. Now we can communicate in our language to them and they will respond. So in that way, we'd have to think about like going to the core skills, critical thinking, problem solving, logical thinking, Even coding has these concepts, it's like decision tree. Now you, for example, make AI agents. There's a whole architecture that you have to build, topologies. Like I'm going to put one supervisor, I'm going to put three of these agents, this agent's going to talk to. So you're becoming an HR of these AI agents that are going to talk.
We've talked about, how it would affect the students, but let's shift on the other side of, how people with your exposure, with your expertise, and at your professional level, settling with this idea of change, that has come with the AI. Because now we all know that change is the only constant, but recently it has been quite frequent. What are your thoughts on that?
I think for me, there's certain core principles that you have to follow. The same way, the companies operate on certain core principles. For me as well, lately, since everybody's learning and things like that, I follow certain things like having a growth mindset, be a lifelong learner, adopt change, right? And this is the part where you're asking, it's like, we have known one core principles of human survival is like, you gotta constantly adopt to new things and adopt faster, right? You could go wrong in a lot of different things, social media and everything. The world is becoming more volatile. Who would have thought that putting your videos on YouTube and social media and sharing your life is going to make you rich? But people who took that opportunity are there. So there's no definitive answers like, hey, this is the guide that to live a productive life or whatever. Everything's at stake right now. Human knowledge has disseminated everywhere in the world. Everybody knows whoever's gonna take an opportunity, they're gonna do it. And that's a great example of like they're talking about OpenAI. And I'll give you like one dramatic story to it. It's like, one night these two guys, Elon Musk and the CEO of Google, Larry Page, they were friends, they were very close friends. Elon used to crash at his place in Palo Alto, like in Silicon Valley. And this is a story told by Elon Musk, although he's been a little bit all over the place lately, but that was before. And they used to have these existential things that, hey, what intelligence form we're going to work in. At that time, Google was deep. Everything came out of Google. All this AI, everything came out of Google. Google was a forefrontier back and deep into research 2005. I won't go way deep into that, but it's just like Google acquiring DeepMind. DeepMind, Mustafa Saleman, and there was another guy, who was a co-founder, London-based startup. They started solving these problems. And the first was figuring out AlphaGo. AlphaGo was the first model that they used to beat human Lee Sedol from South Korea, one of the top Go players in South Korea. They beat AlphaGo beat. And that just changed everything in the world. These people of like the top minds, and they're like, all right, this is possible. This seems possible. That was the first point in the history of us. We thought that, all right, AI is going to be something now. And then Google heavily invested in AI. They acquired DeepMind, start doing all that. Google Brain, they had these two divisions. And still the head of Google AI, Demis, actually, he was the founder of DeepMind, working both with Mustafa Saleman to build all these. He's still there at Google. They have Google Brain and DeepMind that was embedded into that. And they were working on these AI challenges and everything. And they took this step, it's like, hey, let's figure out the next step. And one night, Elon Musk and Larry Page were having this argument that, and this is a real story. Of course, you can go and check it. It's pretty interesting. Since then, they haven't spoken with each other. And Larry Page said that AI is going to be the future. Human intelligence is going to go away. And Elon, according to him, he's a humanist. He said, I want humans to succeed in some ways. His proclaimed story. And Larry Page told him a speciesist. And you can check, he rant a lot about on Twitter about this, that how dare he call me I am a speciesist. Yes, I care about our species, I care about humanity and everything. And he's like, no, AI is going to take over. And after that day, that night, they had a huge argument and a fallout, and they have not spoken. They are not friends with each other since that day. Elon went back and started this new company called OpenAI. Talked to Sam Altman, Alia, and Greg Brockman. They put this team together to solve. That was back in 2015. Call it an ego, you call it whatever. That was the starting point of AI, generative AI. Recently, 2005, 15, they were just burning cash. He put 15 million of his money there in OpenAI, Elon Musk, and then, raise some money. They had GPT-1 didn't do well, GPT-2 didn't do well, GPT-3 was the point 2019 where Sam Altman is a big Y Combinator startup guy in Silicon Valley. So he knows how to build products and everything. After 4 to 5 years on this journey of having no idea what they're doing, they wanted to solve this AGI problem, artificial general intelligence problem, right? Who would have thought in their mind is like, "Oh, I'm gonna build like something, they took chance on that, right? They were gonna burn billions of dollars there. But it was existential to them. 2019, GPT-3 came, 3.5 came with ChatGPT, and rest is history, you guys know. But
Yeah.
that was the starting point of how everything started, of these couple of knuckleheads going in and starting something which nobody believed in. So when you talk about your life, your viewers are like, hey, things are working in some fashion. There's some rules to the game. There's no rules to this game. There's no rules to this life game. You're gonna listen to a lot of like these gurus where they teach, oh, you should live life that, you should live like this. No, nowadays, if you make a video and you are like, it goes viral, you're rich. That's like, who would have thought?
Yeah.
So in that way, there's no rules to life, right? You'd have to take chances. Things go big, you go big, and you create a history. And people say that, it's like history's been written by victors. That is true. It's like we have not seen the people who struggled and failed. We only think about Alexander the Great. We're going to talk about Elon Musk, who made it. And the people who have not made it followed the same recipe, but they're not part of the history and the story.
Saad, everyone is talking about AI regulation from a global perspective, including China, the US, in IP wars, right? But when you're working on enterprise implementations, what does real governance look like on the ground?
I think governance is a huge topic which everybody's talking about. You put regulations on things, there's no innovation that happens. We have seen three models. I'll talk about three models. The American mindset, which is very entrepreneurial. We have European mindset, way heavy on regulations. And you talk about Chinese model, which is, in my point of view, authoritarian and copying. Now things are changing, they're becoming more entrepreneurial, competing, but it is a lot of copying that China has done. They build everything based off American companies, from IPs to everything, like everything. So these three different mindsets, they are there. In the world of AI, regulation is really important for masses, for population. But for innovation, it's not. So if I'm not sure if your viewers would remember, it's like when OpenAI came out with this model, a lot of people, 50 people signed this, hey, stop, including Elon Musk, because he wanted to catch up, with his XAI. They signed this piece of regulation, hey, halt any AI development for 6 months, right? And that was part of the regulations, like, hey, so that, in business world, it's like he wanted to catch up on XAI or whatever his ulterior motives were. But in my point of view and the world's point of view, it's always profits over responsibilities. The bad actors in some ways are going to win in some ways. You can't stop people from doing something, but you can have a rule of engagement on an understanding with each other that, hey, let's agree on that. It's going to impact the whole world, us and you. Be responsible. We've taken a great example from nuclear technology, right? 1945, we had nuclear bombs. Since then, probably like 10 plus countries have this. After Hiroshima and Nagasaki, we did not have any nuclear war. And you saw recently, India and Pakistan had a fight. Yeah. They could have both blown each other up. Like who would have suffered? It's like the population. So in that way, there could be an understanding, but you cannot halt the innovation that's going to go. So in that way, the governance is going to be there for the betterment of all the society, but all these three mindsets are gonna go and innovate and compete, in some ways. It's my personal opinion. I reside more with that culture of freedom and free world to entrepreneur to a little bit of capitalistic mindset versus authoritarian mindset. So I can share a little bit of my views on like the West versus China is becoming emerging of huge power, almost at the same level of AI development where China is. NVIDIA chips have been banned to be used in China, although a DeepSeek model has been trained on HD100, which is the NVIDIA chips now that's banned. There's an escalation. There's a lot of things going on, including the tariff war. But Huawei, which is one of the Chinese company, have almost the same level of hardware that they have, and their software companies like Alibaba, Tencent, all these companies are doing pretty well. They're almost at the same level where Americans is. In my point of view, we're gonna win the war, like US is gonna win the war, this AI, because we're always a step ahead. Innovation, there could be new models that are becoming. I'm gonna just highlight one thing that brings up a huge concern about what reality we want to tell the people of that country or entity. It's like, imagine AI models coming from China that would have a different version of reality. Like, we know DeepSeek came out, and if you would ask Tiananmen Square incident, it would not answer. It's redacted, right? So in an authoritarian world, you would have these problems where truth and information is not going to be the key. It's about masses, controlling the masses and live population. And in the free world, it's going to be different. So we'll see how it's going to unfold, who's going to win what. We have seen throughout our human history that certain ideas took over, certain ideas died down, certain nations took over, certain nations are not there anymore. The fallen of the great Roman Empire, everybody talks about. Huge, one of the greatest empires ever. Now there's nothing. You see the Colosseum, there's like nothing. It's some of the things that goes in nations and humans that make or break them. We'll see if we'll have a free world led by West, or we'll have a more authoritarian version of China that's going to take over and see how things gonna unfold. But one thing is for sure, you cannot stop innovation. Both countries, both regions, both powers are gonna still keep developing, and that thing's gonna continue.
No, I think that was a great answer and pretty well summed up. Saad, McKinsey predicts trillions in productivity from Gen I, but you've seen projects up close. What's a productivity myth you think we need to bust about AI agents in the enterprise?
So shifting gears, back to like generative AI, what it impacts, how it empowers. It's very hard to quantify that. You create one product, like let's say, it's very quantifiable how it's going to help. Unfortunately, with generative AI, there's no correlation directly. It hits productivity, but how to measure productivity? Number of hours, labor, cost, right? Productivity hits three things, right? Labor, cost, time. And it's pretty hard to quantify everything. I mean, a lot of projects, you would have to go after the project to understand how did it impact. So generative AI falls on that category. And even when we talk to our customers, it's the same thing. It's like, okay, how it's going to help my business? Then we'd have to tell them it's going to cut your resources or labor. You're going to have to fire 200 people, but you're going to save cost on that. And that's what this generative AI is. When we quantify, it's like, hey, you're going to save 100,000 man hours, and one person is going to do 5%'s job, so you can fire. So in that way, things are going to change. So when I say that, it's like generative AI is going to hit these three things, which is labor, hours, and cost, right? It all goes to, when you evaluate a company, the company or a business works, there are three things or two things, at the core, how to make a business profitable. It's either you increase revenue, either you decrease cost, because your net profits is what you take back home. So for your viewers, if you want to know how businesses work, there are three key things. It's revenue, COGS, we call it cost of goods sold, it's like the cost. But the third thing is the net profits. And there's like a lot of taxes or whatever, but profits is revenue minus cost is your profit. Any company wants to increase the profits, right? How you do that? Either increase the revenue and cost is going to remain same, or you decrease the cost. Unfortunately, generative AI agents and everything's going to hit that cost thing. What is cost? Humans are cost. We have to pay people to work, right? What is cost? Having all these fancy things, that you would have to do, and number of hours and all that stuff is a cost. How you cut cost? Build these AI agents, leverage generative AI, which is very strategic in a company, and you decrease cost. Your revenues, even they remain same, you'll have more profit. So once you decrease cost, it's going to go in the pockets of the shareholders, right? So I'll say one thing, and everybody knows that with this generative AI and AI agents and all this AI revolution, top of the society are going to get benefit the most. Rich are going to become more richer, and you've seen that trend happening.
It's been happening for ages. It has been like that. Yeah.
And that talk, that brings up, it's like if one person like Elon Musk, having $400 billion, can you imagine one person having $400 billion? It's like more than the total GDP of Pakistan, I guess, I'm not sure, but it's one person, owning countries. How and why we come to that level? Do we need regulations? And you want to create a more capitalistic society where one person have. So all these things are up in the air. There's no one model to have it, but that's the world we're living in. But if you want to be at the top, go leverage these technologies and everything so that you can leverage more. But the thing is going to be the investors who's going to invest in that, the people who are going to use it, the rich people are going to become more richer. The society is going to become more dismantled in a way that who are going to become more poor, who are middle class, they're going to go back, and then richer become better. And same with nations as well. We talk
Yeah.
about US versus Pakistan. There was a huge chunk of Pakistani market, which was IT engineers and everything, right? Do we need them now? Not sure. We need high-level engineers, but it's like mediocre or low-level coders. No. And it's been shifting. Right now, you don't see that effects right now because everybody's building. We are building, everybody's building. Once this is going to go down next year, next to next year, things going to stabilize. Imagine the IT industry in Pakistan. So I don't want to sound pessimistic, but I'm trying to be more realistic in what's coming in Pakistan, what industry, especially IT industry. A lot of people are in that particular field. And when I went in Pakistan and gave these talks, I was talking about the same thing is like the things that are coming in the future are going to impact you directly. How to prepare for it? That's you have to think about.
Yeah, that is something that will differentiate from in between and from the outside, that how you are going to cope with that change and how prepared you are for that. But then, you giving keeping up with the tech and the innovation and the AI agents, we talk candidly about it. If AI is the devil, we are that devil's advocate these days.
Yeah.
So, well, Todd, we will now move towards the end of our conversation. I have two more questions for you. After working across continents, industries, and AI maturity levels, what's one hard lesson you've learned that you wish someone had told you earlier?
I think one lesson is like it goes to the core. It's like embrace change as much as you can. In this productivity era, hyper productivity era of social media and everything, our brains are cooked, right? Two things, focus and time. These two things are the ultimate human currencies. In the world we're going to live in, attention, which is kind of focus, attention is all you need. Attention is the key. Even the paper of these transformer model, actually GPT-3.5 is based on that. The name of that research paper that started everything, this AI thing, the name of that paper was Attention is All You Need. Because there were three things in that thing. Is like one, self-learning, this learning, but attention is like focusing on the right thing, focusing on the key things of understanding the context. That changed everything in generative AI, and the GPT came out of that. So check it out. The paper that changed everything was a paper by Google Brain, 6 people by Google Brain, that provided the basis of GPT, which is the model that came out first, was attention is all you need. And in this world, everybody's after your attention. You need to prioritize, like even big companies, social media, how they make money, viewership, attention, focus. And you give your focus and time that comes to attention. You're giving attention, they can sell you products, and you are the product. You are the product in the society, in social media, and you are the product that they want your attention. Everybody wants your attention. So prioritize your attention. Have focus and time on things that are really important to you in the long term. Those are the things that you need to focus on. I tell myself as well, it's like my time and focus are the two most important things in my life. Prioritize on things that are really important, because we've got is these two human currencies. We're short life, focus on the right things. So, and then embracing change, all the other growth mindset and be on the on the forefrontier of things and all of that. But focus and attention, I mean, focus and time is this formula for me. It's like focus plus time, attention is a key human currency.
But then, was it always easier for you to embrace change, to be who you are today? Was it always easier, or did it come the hard way with a lot of lessons?
I think it's come a long way. Like if I'll give my example, I'm not like super successful person. I'm just like a mediocre who has gone through certain understandings, but
I would say you're very humble about yourself.
I appreciate that, but it's like everything's relative, it's relative. I would say myself like mildly successful in certain things, but what changed from me, especially coming from a Pakistani mindset in the world, question everything around you. I would ask questions. I was curious. I was like, why you're doing this? Why you're doing that? Like from the very childhood. And I wanted to be different in some ways to like, hey, if somebody's doing that, you should not just go and follow, be like a sheep. Question things, be curious. It's like curiosity is one of the key things that you can put in yourself. Like be curious, and then you'll go through your own journey. And everybody has their own journey. That's the unique thing about everyone. They will have their own journey, but be curious, ask question why, and then find answers and go to that path. Sometimes that's gonna be a dead end, but you'll learn. There's no losing. It's either learning or winning. So what lessons I've learned, along the way is I think I am still following the way I'm following the world. I'm very adaptable to change, very adaptable to change in a way that I want to learn new cultures, I want to talk to new people. And that's maybe personality. I'm a little bit extrovert. I go do different things, I run, meet people, things like that. So it's a lot of personality, but it's again your own journey. It's like whatever you want to follow, whatever you think is best for you, you follow, but be curious. One of the key things, in my talks, my last the ending of that talk was on in one slide, and it's I go on a run on this trail right across, it's a Ladybird Trail, and I go on a run every Saturday, and there is a flyover, and there's a thing written there, live a great story. And every time I go and I'm like in my own zone of like, hey, let's just, do 5 miles and everything. And that's what I see. And that's what reminds me life is short. We're here, we're fireflies, make the most out of it. Live a great story. Do not live a mundane life. Life needs to be cherished. Don't be depressed or whatever. Just keep going, keep working on something. There's so much to learn, to know, to experience, and everything. Be curious about everything, and live a great story. Do not live a mundane life. And I feel like that has embedded into my mindset in a way that I want to experience new things and go. Not sure if I'm doing a great job at that, but at least I'm trying at a certain level.
Yeah. So, is there anything else that excites you more other than your, job, or being an engineer, or being at Microsoft? Well, what if we take this out of the equation? Who would Saad be then?
I'm really excited to be a part in this particular time and era where we're discovering AI, and I'm really excited about what's going to be next. Although we are a very small part of it, I'm more existential how I see life. And that's what I said. It's like we are just part of the equation. In my belief as well, we might be living in a simulation as well. I don't believe we're living in a based reality. A lot of people do agree with that too, but you would never know. It's like where we are and everything's going, you'd be living in a virtual world, and sometimes you go in your dreams to a different world. That's all debatable. It's like we
Yeah.
don't know a lot of questions, don't know our place in the universe, who we are, where we come from. But for me, what things started was this understanding your existence and understanding the meaning of life, which is, I'm not going to go deep because people were like, oh, there's a meaning of life. A lot of people who are like working in AI, researchers or whatever, even you see Elon Musk, Grok, XAI, their theme is understanding the nature of universe, right? It's grandiose. It's like, what is our place in the universe? So I'm excited about going to Mars, humanity going to Mars. I'm excited about AI taking off. I'm excited about maybe my next summer 6-pack challenge, which I have not started, but I'm excited about learning new things and meeting new people. Meeting you and being part of this is a new thing, and seeing the feedback. I'm trying to start a series on LinkedIn about building enterprise agentic AI as well. I'm excited about that. But it's a journey. It's a journey towards something big, and I don't know, and that drives me the curiosity of how it's gonna land.
I figured that you're an existentialist. We'll end this conversation on this one question, so that what is the meaning of life to you? Just have to say it in like a sentence or two. How,
Yeah.
how would you answer that?
I don't believe there's an inherent meaning to life. You create your own meaning, and I'm creating my own meaning. What my meaning is my journey, my experiences, the people I'm surrounded with, the place I live, and the impact that I'm gonna have on people. And if I could have a huge impact on people, making other people's life great, that would be a huge success. The meaning to my life is understanding the nature of universe, as you said, our place in universe. What's next in humanity? Are we gonna merge with machines to have a different kind of species? Are we gonna be like this? But these are all the things that excites me, and my meaning to life is still unfolding in that way, that it's a journey. I'm trying to create my.
Yeah. Well, Saad, in this simulation of the world, I think I'm absolutely, you grateful to have you with me over here to share these invaluable insights with our listeners. And I would just want to thank you, for everything that you shared, you taking out time for this, and thank you so much. And then I
Yeah, I
believe that
appreciate
you're gonna do great out there. Yeah.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.